On this episode of Jets Final Drive, this team has a new defensive coordinator. We're going to break that down. They don't have a new offensive coordinator, though, so we're going to figure out what's exactly going on between Darren Bevel, Frank Reich, Greg Roman. Who will the Jets choose, or could they actually choose all of them? Also, every single vacancy has been filled across the NFL, and two are former Jets coaches. We're going to talk about who was the best hire, who was the worst hire, and also some fun little awards to hand out in honor of the Grammys. It is Jets Final Drive, and it starts right now. It is Jets Final Drive. He's Zack Rosenblatt. I am Connor Hughes. Welcome to another episode. And like we say every single week, we appreciate everywhere you guys are watching, whether that is X, Facebook, SNY.TV, or YouTube. But YouTube is the place to be because not only do you get access to SNY's complete content or complete catalog of digital content, you also get a chance to interact with this show all throughout the show with that live chat that runs throughout. So if you guys have questions, comments, concerns on the state of the New York Jets, Zack and I will be able to take them all throughout the episode. Zack, it is Super Bowl week, buddy. How are you feeling?
I'm excited. I think this is going to be a good game. I think the Seahawks are like 4.5-point favorites. I think it's going to be – I heard a stat that an underdog of more than 3 points has won some crazy amount over the last decade. Uh-huh. So it's something to think about. But, I'm excited. I love Super Bowl Sunday. I always look forward to it. I was at the Super Bowl last year. It was a lot of fun, so I'm kind of sad I'm not out there this year. But, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of Sam Darnold talk is going to happen this week. Tonight's going to be Super Bowl media night. So he's going to get peppered with questions about the New York Jets, and I'm sure he'll handle himself just fine. But excited about this game for sure.
And actually, the Sam Darnold talk already started. We got to give a shout out to Rich Cimini, who tracked down and got Mike Maccagnan in his first public comments since he was let go from the Jets after running their entire draft and free agency that year. Rich got him on the phone, and it was a really good interview. Hearing him reflect on Sam, I think there was an anecdote in there actually that one of the reasons he decided to do the interview was the video of Sam embracing his parents after the victory, the first game of his career over the Lions, where he's hugging his mom and dad, and then Josh McCown's hugging his mom and his dad. That actually brought tears to Mike Maccagnan's eye when he was recounting it with Rich. He talked about that, where he was getting choked up again. So it was a really good story. I read it. I thought it was awesome. And again, Mike was, for all of his faults, and I've always said this, he deserved probably to be let go earlier than what he did. I mean, the draft picks were bad. The cap management was bad. The free agent signings were bad. It wasn't a great relationship between he and Todd Bowles either. It was... Charlie Casserly probably shouldn't have put him in that position, but that's kind of what the Jets did during that hiring cycle. They asked Ron Wolf and Charlie Casserly to find the next general manager and head coach, and Casserly was dead set on Mike Maccagnan getting that job. But the one thing about Mike was he was a really good guy, and he did. He was a good person. He was a good human being. His wife was awesome, and it's a bummer that it ended the way that it did. But it was cool to hear him talk again. And for this, I mean, look, it's victory laps. I don't know if I wouldn't say it was that. When Dave Gettleman talked to the New York Post
I was thinking that.
Giants, that was a victory lap. That was Dave Gettleman being look what I did. Look at these players. This is my roster. No, Dave Gettleman was a freaking disaster. Mike Maccagnan also wasn't very good at his job, but I didn't take this as a victory lap. I took this as a guy just reflecting on Sam Darnold and just being happy for his success. And the cool thing too, Zack, is that it seems like almost 99 to 99.9% of Jet fans are pulling for Seattle because of Sam Darnold at the Super Bowl.
I think it was Tony Vegas had a great tweet about it where he said Sam Darnold beating the Patriots will make the 2018 pick worth it or something, which it's the most Jets thing ever, Jets fan thing ever. We got to find something to hang our hat on. I will say this happens every year. We probably talked about this last week a little bit, but it just feels like the Jets are always on everybody's mouth when it comes to the Super Bowl because there's always some sort of storyline, and you're going to see that this week with Sam and Vrabel and Leonard Williams and Leonard Taylor and all these guys. But Sam, that's the thing. Everybody tries to make fun of the Jets about Sam Darnold, but there's not a single person in this area that's not rooting for Sam, I don't think. So, correct. Including, I bet Adam Gase wasn't in that story. I imagine he's excited for Sam as well. I know it didn't go well, and
It just fell apart for a myriad of reasons. You guys know that I'm more of a believer in Adam than I think a lot of people are. I don't think he was maybe necessarily cut out to be a head coach, but he could still be an offensive coordinator somewhere. He just wasn't that stand in front of the crowd motivator, leader of men. But things just got so bad that second year. In fact, I remember we've talked about it before. Like Adam used to do film sessions with media and just kind of explain what they were doing, the breaking down the X's and O's. It was actually awesome. Like for somebody who just grew up a fan of football, it was really cool to experience those things. And other people have done it too. Like Michael LaFleur did it a bit as well. But the one thing that I remember during one of the end of the Adam Gase film sessions was he was going over a play, and this was when Adam knew he was done. The Jets were just spiraling out of control. This was actually the COVID year, so we were doing the film reviews over Zoom. Like, it's also kind of cool that Adam went out of his way to do that, because he could have been like, oh, look, I'm not going to bring you guys into my office. It's COVID, but hey, I'll do this virtually with you guys, which I thought was pretty awesome. But the thing with him was that there was a play where the read that Sam was supposed to go to, it was like, if you get, like, look, this is what the coverage is going to be, throw it here to Robbie, it's going to be open. And sure enough, like, Adam stops the play on the back drop, and Robbie Anderson's wide open, and Sam is, like, looking left. And I remember it was, like, a really somber moment with Gase. And this, again, he knew he was done. This wasn't he was trying to salvage his job, but it was kind of a somber, like, realization setting in of, like, I feel like I've let the kid down, was when he looked and he's like, this is a play that's designed for this coverage. We get this coverage. I told him in his headset, go to Robbie when you see this read. And here Robbie is streaking down the field wide open, and Sam's looking somewhere else. And this wasn't excuse making by Adam. This was Adam basically saying, I've lost the quarterback. Like Sam doesn't really trust me anymore, and he doesn't believe what I'm telling him anymore. He goes, and it was just like, you know, when Adam was hired, he took this job because of Sam. Like, he wanted to work with Sam, and ultimately it just didn't work out for him. But I can promise you that Adam's absolutely happy for Sam. I think anyone who's ever come in contact with Sam is happy for him. Joe Douglas is happy for him because, again, it's a kid who's always done things the right way. Teammates loved him, coaches loved him, assistants loved him. He was always a really good person, and it's cool to see good people having success.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to focus on that part instead of just being like, well, the Jets let him go. The Jets let him go.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to repeat everything else, but the Panthers and Vikings did too. And Vikings GM got fired as a result of Sam Darnold being let go. So it's crazy that he's here. I mean, he's the favorite to win MVP in the Super Bowl. Just think about that. Like, if I had told you that, like, at any point in the last 6 years, like, Sam Darnold is the favorite to win Super Bowl MVP right now. And there's a lot of logic to that too. Like, that's the crazy part. And yeah, I'm just excited to see how he handles it, because there's still questions about how he's going to handle a moment like this. I think he's answered those pretty good these last couple of weeks, but this is the all-time, and Patriots have a great defense and a lot of pressure. So how is Sam Darnold going to handle it? Like, that's the thing I'm most excited to see on Sunday.
My other thing I'm excited to see on Sunday is we do a Super Bowl party every year. So it's sad because, like, if I cover two teams, and if either of them made the Super Bowl, like, I would be working it. Or if they had a chance of making the Super Bowl, to get to work it. But it feels like every single October, it's like a joke text message between my wife and I that, like, the Giants are out of it, the Jets are out of it, and I'll text her and be like, yeah, Bree, so we can start planning the Super Bowl. So this year, we talked about a couple episodes ago where I've got the smoker now, so I fully embrace, like, I'm full on dad mode. Like, I'm like, you know, I don't have the New Balances yet, but I'm rocking the, like, smoker outside, all that stuff. Very excited. It was all I'm not going to go into the comment section, which ripped me for talking about my snowblower a week ago, but got the snowblower too. I'm doing 3 racks of ribs, which I'm really excited about. I feel like I've gotten that down pretty good. Like, Zack, you tried when we went to Jordan's a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they were good.
Doing 3 more racks of ribs, and then my buddy Rodney, who is a smoke god, he's making a brisket. So that's 2 of, like, the main meats that we're gonna have there. So we're really excited. I think
I might make a bison chili myself, since I don't think we're gonna go anywhere. But I might make a bison chili.
There you go.
Yeah, put it in the crock pot in the morning and let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, Bree and I are, though. We're like, the snow, obviously, because we're going to get into the Jets now right after this. But this, like, what's crazy is, dude, is, like, we got that, like, 10 inches of snow, and then it's been below freezing and, like, pretty much below 20 degrees every single day since that. Now that snow is just melted into a brick of ice. So the last 3 Super Bowl parties we've hosted since we've lived in this house, the kids go outside. All of my friends who have toddlers and little kids, they go outside and they run in our backyard. That's what they do. There's still, like, 6 inches of ice all throughout my backyard. So, Bree and I were looking at each other the other day, like, what are we going to do with everybody? We've got, like, 12 kids coming over. Like, where are we going to put them? So, like, Brooke's got a playroom and the living room and dining room. We're all going to throw them in there while we watch the game in the family room. But that's going to be another. I'll have a report on that for next week's show on how we manage that. All right, Zack, let's get into some Jets stuff. They have a new defensive coordinator, so we're going to talk a lot this episode. We're going to go into, we took your questions on social media. If you guys have additional questions, make sure that you drop them in the comment section on YouTube. We can get to that all throughout the show. So we're going to take your questions. We're going to spin you around the NFL coaching cycle because every single coach or every single vacancy has now been hired. Shout out former Jets Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur for getting their opportunities with the Titans and Cardinals. We're going to get into all that. Also going to talk about the Jets offensive coordinator search. We're going to talk about the Senior Bowl. Where could the Jets' next quarterback be playing down there? But regardless, we are going to start with the defensive coordinator that the Jets now have, and it is Brian Duker. Zach, early thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny. On the pod last week, they had just announced that they were interviewing him after they had already interviewed 8 guys, and we both kept forgetting his name in the moment because we had never heard it before that day. And so
he will not be, of course.
It's hard to separate the process from the destination, and that's going to be the case for the offensive coordinator spot too. Like, it was a really ugly and disorganized process to get to Brian Duker. I mean, he clearly wasn't even under consideration because I don't think Aaron Glenn was considering calling plays when the process started. Because if he was, you don't interview 8 different guys, and so and you don't talk to Wink Martindale and Jim Leonard. So all of a sudden,
try the
Aaron
big guys too.
Yeah, and so Aaron Glenn changes his mind, and then he interviews a guy that he's coached with in Detroit and Cleveland, and then the next day they hire him as a defensive coordinator, pretty much confirming what we were talking about a week ago, which was that Aaron Glenn is probably going to call plays now, and that only doubles down on that. And so what can Brian Duker add when you have a defensive play caller that is also your head coach? Like, he was there in Detroit and helped develop guys like Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, so maybe there's something there. Their defensive backfield was really bad and didn't force any turnovers last year. He was under Anthony Weaver the last 2 years. Ironically, he worked under Wink Martindale to start his career, so he's actually like a Wink Martindale protege in a way. He was on like the staff and when Wink was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore, so he comes from like a line of like Baltimore coaches with Weaver and Wink, and he worked under Glenn. So he's not going to call plays, but he'll be involved in game planning and some development. So I don't know. I don't mind the hire. It's a young coach, and in theory, you want to be hiring, especially if it's someone who's not calling plays. This is a good spot to develop a coach, but it's just the process to get. Like, he was talked to the first time the day before. Like, you could say what you want.
He didn't do an in-person interview.
Yeah. So you could say what you want, but it was a clear pivot at the very last minute where they were like, "All right, let's just hire somebody for not to disrespect him, but like, it's hard not to read it that way." So you know, how do I view it? Like, this is all on Aaron Glenn now. Like, he's putting it on his shoulders, and I don't blame him for that.
That you hit the nail on the head. It changed. The plan changed. And I think that's what's made the Jets come off a bit discombobulated and why they've just been dragged through the mud, because this was not the plan originally. And I'm not talking about, the plan was Wink Martindale. Although it was, but when the offseason began, and you mentioned it, Zach, when they started interviewing these people like Jim Leonard, like Wink Martindale, they wanted somebody who was going to be their defensive coordinator or call plays, run that side of the ball. That was the way that the entire organization was operating for a month. That's why when they originally had their exit meetings with positional coaches on the staff, they told them that they could explore other opportunities. But from talking to several of the people who were let go, and even some of the people who are still there, they were led to believe, and the organization has somewhat denied this, but again, from talking to them, this is how they felt. So the organization said, we never said everybody's safe, but this is how they felt. They believed that they were safe and that changes were not going to come aside from defensive coordinator, that the positional coaches, nothing was going to happen. So for a month, 23 days exactly, they operated with one direction. This is what we're doing. This is where we're headed. This is what we're trying to do. And then it all changed. Everything changed. That's why they were pursuing Wink Martindale. And it wasn't until Wink showed up for his second interview, where it was believed to be a situation of just dot I's, cross T's, that he was told in that in-person meeting that Aaron Glenn now wanted to call plays, to the point where Wink looked at Aaron Glenn and said, dude, what the F changed? Like, so something switched, and we can argue what it was. Was it higher ups? Was it this? Was it that? Was it Aaron Glenn just randomly having an epiphany? I don't know if it was the latter, but clearly something changed to be going in one direction for 23 days and then immediately changed to something else. But once Glenn made the decision that he wanted to call plays, Jim Leonard was completely out of it. Wink Martindale was completely out of it. Any defensive-minded guy who had a stable reputation and was a legitimate dude, they were all out of it, and that's why you pivot to somebody like Brian Duker, and that's ultimately what happens. Now, that's really all I got to add to that. I was going to say and then I realized we're going to go into another section here, and I want to step on those toes.
Yeah, I mean, I just say, and this is going to be part of our conversation, but now they have to fill out the rest of that defensive staff while also still hiring the OC and filling out their offensive staff. So, like that, if you think about it, and I was thinking about this earlier.
Well, the Senior Bowl's taking place.
The Senior Bowl's taking place. But so if you think about a new coach, he doesn't go in, at least the smart ones, they don't go into an interview not knowing who's going to be on their staff or at least an idea of it. Yeah. So you could argue that the Jets are further behind in filling out their staff than coaches that were just hired. Like Mike LaFleur has a pretty good idea of the guys he's going to hire. Aaron Glenn,
he already brought. Didn't the defensive coordinator get hired? He got a defensive. I think Goby's going with him. It's like he's got his guys.
You can't hire anybody. You have to interview and stuff. But Gus Bradley was the name that came up for DC.
There you go.
But my point being, like, the Jets are further behind the 8 ball than these new coaches because Aaron Glenn is making the calls right now to try and hire people. He needs to hire his OC first, and that OC is going to have a say in who else gets hired. He just hired his DC. He needs to fill out the rest of the defensive staff. We don't know if there's going to be more coaching changes. Like it's a really volatile situation. And at the end of it, we might look at the staff and be like, okay, I kind of see, the vision now that it's done. But like the process to get here, it's hard not to criticize them for.
That's the thing, and I have said this on the last episode and all that stuff, but the biggest issue that they're battling right now is there's no positivity with this team. I mean, you have Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots with the coach that you could have had, or not could have had, but the coach that you wanted that you couldn't get. You're through this disaster. You're firing everybody. There's no like Dante Moore went back to college. Like there's no quarterback to hang your hat on or free agent signing yet to be like, oh, we are turning this around or belief. So it's just the negativity is all encompassing and it's just drowning them. Now, you tweeted this, Zack. So you're the one who it was amazing when I actually read it because you're like, yeah, they're bringing coaches back, but then you read like not now counting assistants like this is or
yeah,
you know what I mean, like the assistant offensive line coach, assistant line, not counting those guys. The only dudes who are returning right now, we've had the Idzik 5. This is the Idzik 12. This is the AG 5. Chris Banjo, special teams coordinator. Steve Hyden, the offensive line coach. Sean Jefferson, receivers coach. Nick McKissick, Luke, the running backs coach. And Chris Harris, the defensive backs coach and pass game coordinator. I talked to a couple sources yesterday about this. And it was described to me, and this is coaches who were gone and also some people still on staff. There is a, quote, uneasy feeling right now within the Jets building amongst the positional coaches. And in fact, some of the guys who are still here and staying, they are exploring the possibility of if there are other opportunities out there for them. And the reason for it is that, again, the Jets insist that they did not tell everybody that everyone was safe. That's what the Jets are saying. There's conflicting stuff that we hear from the guys who are like, oh, like there's conflicting reports on what that is from those people. Now, could that be semantics? Could that be, we don't have to get into that. There's no point. It's just going to be a he said battle. But the people that are left are now under the impression of, wait, we were going in one direction for a while. Now suddenly it changed. Guys who thought they were safe were like, oh, am I really that safe? Like they're starting to look for other opportunities where there might be a little bit more of a runway where they know, okay, not only do I know I have my job security at this moment, but also probably next year or the year after that. I mean, so I can't say that there's another change coming from this group, but it would not surprise me based off the conversations I had that somebody else leaves for a lateral position once one of these other guys gets hired. Like you've seen LaFleur is now filling out his staff and things of that nature. Kubiak's going to be filling them out. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some connections here aside from Banjo if one of those other guys leaves and goes with them because they don't want to deal with it at the moment. And honestly, Zack, you can't blame them.
So this was spurred by the Jets tight ends coach, Jeff Blasco. Mary Kay Cabot reported he's going to be joining the Brown staff. He was someone that I had said I was viewed to be safe as of a couple weeks ago, and that was before all the firings. And as a result of him going to the Browns, I got a really funny text from a league source who said, jumping ship to Cleveland is as low as it gets.
Oh, God. So, yes. You're not wrong.
You're jumping ship to go to the Cleveland Browns. So, he's the tight ends coach. Like, I'm not going to make a big deal about it. Like, your tight ends coach ultimately doesn't matter that much. People liked having Ron Middleton in the room because he was a great guy and he was funny to be around. The tight ends coach doesn't matter. So it's more like the broad strokes. Like these position coaches are just dropping like flies on this team. And
where
at the
end
end of the day, you have nowhere.
Do you remember?
I don't think he would coach anywhere last year. Actually, yeah,
he did?
He was one of the only coaches that.
The board. Oh no, because Dable's the coach.
I hope so. He could just be like an assistant head coach or something. But yeah. It's just like hard to look at a first-year coach who went 3-14 who, as you and I have talked about on this and separately, like he already has history stacked against him going into next season because first-year coaches who won 3 games to eventually make the playoffs over the last like 25 years. There's like 3 or 4 guys. It includes, I think, Zach Taylor, Dan Campbell. I believe Jim Schwartz is one, and there was another like not that exciting one. It's like 4 coaches that eventually made the playoffs, and I don't think any of them survived past their third year besides Campbell and Zach Taylor. So, you take that, okay, odds stacked against you, and now you take, okay, he fired his OC, DC, and now like 6, 7, 8 other position coaches. I don't think there's precedent for this. Like, this is unprecedented. So I guess in that way, you could be like, well, he's the first one to do this, so maybe he'll be the first one to succeed also. But I would say the odds are stacked against him now. And I'm not saying that it won't look better this season. Maybe it will. Maybe he's going to prove us all wrong, his plan that he keeps talking about. But, like, I don't know how you could, even the most optimistic Aaron Glenn supporter going into this offseason, I don't know how you could sit here and be like, yeah, I still feel that way, like 100% all in. Like, I just don't see anyone who could feel that way. And if there's people who do feel that way, like, please comment, because I would love to like hear from some people who still are all in on Aaron Glenn, because I think it's fair to be fair to be suspicious at this point. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The why is the big one. The big vacancy the Jets still are trying to fill, aside from all these positional coaches, is offensive coordinator. That is the big one that's still open. The Jets, we talked about this with the defensive coordinator search. They have been telling candidates and the candidates' agents, don't speak on the matter. Do not speak on the subject. We don't want anything getting out there. Keep it all to yourself. Okay. I mean, eventually it's going to get out there in some way, shape, or form, like it all has. There are 2 in-person interviews that are happening. It's Bevel and Greg Roman. The expectation is that probably Frank Wright's going to get that as well. I think Boomer Esiason was talking about this on WFAN, that he's on vacation. I think somebody sent that to me. I didn't hear it from Boomer, but somebody said like Frank's on vacation right now, which is probably why he hasn't been in yet or something like that. The offensive coordinator is going to come from that grouping of 3 unless they go and they did what they did with the defensive coordinator, which is just randomly interview somebody and then hire him, which I guess you can't rule anything out with this offseason from the Jets at the moment. But I'll say this, Zach, and this is more connecting dots. This isn't me. I'm not saying this is happening. This is not per sources, but I would say from talking to people around the NFL that are not tied to the Jets, but speculating on what might happen, like, I'll tell you how I got there. I guess that's the easiest way, is that when this interview of Greg Roman first came out, I can tell you that the number of people that hit up my phone with some variation of what the hell are the Jets doing was an abundance. And like to the point where I texted you about it and you're like, oh my God, people are telling me the same exact thing. Like, I don't think that Greg Roman, offensive coordinator, is a very popular thing across the NFL right now. But from talking to somebody who I'm very close with in the league, who's a very good offensive mind, he had said, he goes, the one thing that dude can do is he can call a run game. Like, he knows how to organize and call a run game. Yeah. And that's when it kind of got the gears shifting of everything that I have heard about Frank Wright is that he is the front runner for it. And it could be wrong. Things could change. They changed with Wink. I mean, Wink was a done deal and things changed. Like, I could absolutely see Frank Wright, who was considering retirement, maybe getting cold feet and saying he's done. I could totally foresee a situation where the money suddenly isn't necessarily there, where the checks and the checkbook and the financial figures to get Frank Wright out of retirement suddenly got cut for whatever reason, and he doesn't happen and they have to pivot to somebody else. But if Roman is this unbelievable run game guy, and then you have somebody like Bevel, who just served as a offensive pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach with the Dolphins, and from my understanding, like, there's other teams that are interested in him in like a senior advisor role. Like, it's not just the Jets. Like, there are other teams interested in him in roles like he had with the Dolphins last year. I wonder if the Jets aren't necessarily looking at this as one of the 3 and the possibility of 3 of the 3 or 2 of the 3 in terms of a Frank Wright as your offensive coordinator, Greg Roman as your run game coordinator, and then you have Bevel as your pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. And if you're Bevel and you're looking at this, it also makes some sense from your point of view, because you know that Frank is not a 5-year figure for this role. You know he might not even be a 2-year figure for this role. Like, he might only be looking at this in a 12 to 24 month kind of a thing here for the Jets. So there's an opportunity here to look. Let's stabilize the program. Let's get everybody ready for 2027. Let's get the quarterback. And then once we draft somebody, you're the pass game coordinator, quarterbacks coach at the moment. You're our offensive coordinator 2027, or you're our offensive coordinator in 2028. For Roman, it's a chance to work with Breece Hall, a really good offensive line, get your name into a little bit of a better standing, so then you maybe make another run at an offensive coordinator position or something like that. Like, that is, I would say, that the feeling that this is starting to have, that the Jets are going to come away with not 1 of 3, but maybe 2 of 3 or all 3 of 3.
Yeah, I mean, I I think that's a positive outcome. You get all three of these guys. They all come from different backgrounds and coaching backgrounds. I don't even think any of them have ties to each other, which, can be good or bad, I guess. But, like you said, if Greg Roman's really good at scheming up run game, which it sounds like everybody says he's one of the best there is at that. The Ravens, they did have Lamar Jackson, but they were one of the best running teams. I think the Chargers are pretty high up there last year, and the Jets want to be a running team, so I think that would be positive. And you look at Bevel, he has a history as an offensive coordinator, not the most successful. I've seen a lot of people saying it'd be ironic if he was hired as their OC just as the Seahawks are playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl, because he was the Seahawks OC when they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I believe. But he has spent the last 2 years under Mike McDaniel, which, there's something to be said about that. And Frank Reich is a really good leader, someone who's highly respected in terms of developing quarterbacks and things like that. It's been a while since he's been an effective play caller, but I think if you're combining all three of those, you feel a lot better about your offensive staff than you did a year ago, I would say, when you had Charles London as your QB coach and Tanner Engstrand, first-time play caller, and a lot of first-time coaches. And so I think if you want to feel better about the team, you get all three of those guys. I think you feel a little better about this group. And I also would say if Frank Reich is probably the one that's getting hired, and if he always was, and that might be the case, it might not, there's not really another reason to bring Greg Roman and Darrell Bevell into your building unless you're trying to hire them for another role ultimately. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So I'd say it would be a major positive if you could get all three of those guys, and then you hope to fill out your defensive staff with some promising coaches and whatnot, and then attack free agency and try to really start to improve. But if you don't get all three, if you get 2 out of 3, I think that's still pretty good.
And again, the only thing I can stress on Frank Reich is I have nothing new to add compared to what we reported previously. And that's just, I know that they were talking contract specifics. I know that Frank Reich had reached out to others that he wanted on his coaching staff. I know that Frank was telling people that it was about a done deal. So that's where this was. Was this a week ago? You know what I mean? So I can't imagine something completely and totally changed, but also we did just deal with this with Wink, where Wink Martindale was done. He showed up for his in-person interview, and they go, "Surprise! You're not calling plays. You still want to work here." Things can change. Things have been really funky this offseason. They have been really, really funky. With how desperate the Jets are for, I think, a positive story at the moment, they realize that hiring Greg Roman as your offensive coordinator is not going to be that. I don't think that hiring Bevell as your offensive coordinator is going to be this great story. I think if you do that, it's almost going to feel like, what the hell are we doing? We got rid of Tanner Engstrand for Bevell? We got rid of Tanner Engstrand for Roman? What? What? I think it's the Frank Reich one you can understand. The former head coach, the guy who had won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. There's a lot of good things about Reich, although things ended poorly with the Panthers. There's a lot there that you can like, especially when you pair him with everyone else, that it just seems like I know sometimes it feels like the Jets don't know what they're doing, but this feels like one where they probably have they have a plan, I would hope. But I think their plan, you can start to see what they're trying to do, and we'll see if they can ultimately get it done. And if things do fall apart with Frank Reich and he doesn't hear about it or it doesn't happen, I can promise you I'm going to find out about it after it's done. I'll find out what happened. It's just a matter of right now I can't comment on anything more just because I haven't heard anything else other than what it was originally, which was full steam ahead, everything looking really, really good. And once, I'll be honest, Zach, if it was just Frank and Bevell in the mix for this thing, it would be okay, maybe they're just picking the Roman part of this, the Roman factor of it all, and then making calls around the league about what he what role should he have, and then being wait, that kind of starts making some sense. You can start to see connect some dots, but we'll see if that ultimately ends up happening, or the Jets just hire Bevell and we're back doing this podcast next week. What the hell are they doing? We'll see.
I mean, having a podcast where we talk about what the hell are the Jets doing, I feel is a safer bet than the opposite. So
change name? That would we would sell mad merch.
What the hell are the Jets doing? That's the name of our podcast.
Yes, yeah, and we can what THTJD. There's probably a good acronym there that we can work around too. We're gonna get Sam Candle, our producer for this episode, on that, because I have a feeling we would find a way to we would sell so much merch. There would be so much merch there. It would be great. I was Joe Caparoso's old thing. Turn on the Jets was a great one. I love that one as well because it's both. You can see the double meaning there. All right, last question here before we move on to a little bit of Senior Bowl stuff, because we took some questions on Twitter as well, or X, and then we're going to work them into the show throughout. This one came from Mike Brown when he's not coaching the Knicks. Apparently, he's sending us questions from Brown and the Jets. True thoughts on where the offensive coordinator situation lands, and where does that swing look to point the direction of the quarterback. So basically, how do you think this offense works, and then who do you think it ends up making the quarterback?
I mean, if Frank Reich is your offensive coordinator, I think you're probably going the veteran and rookie route, I would guess, because otherwise I don't know what purpose you'd have bringing in a 64-year-old who was close to retirement. Like, I don't know who that veteran is. I think Kirk Cousins rose in my rankings because him and Frank Reich actually have a friendship. I think it happened when Kirk tore his, I think it was Achilles. I can't remember what injury he had. And then Frank and him really bonded over their, like Bible-related stuff, I should say. Like they were like sharing passages with each other, and I think they became friendly. And you and I talked about Jacoby Brissett, like guys like that as a stopgap. And then this kind of dives into our Senior Bowl discussion in a moment. But then you draft somebody like a Ty Simpson or a Garrett Nussmeier or if Chambliss comes out, and you try and roll with those two this season, see what you have, and then if that's not enough, you go for somebody else next year. Like that's kind of where my head's at. And I still, as I said to you last week, I still am kind of the mind that with how this offseason has gone, it just feels like they're going to try and make a splash for a big name, and maybe they view that as a Kirk. But I just can't get Kyler out of my head. I don't think he's a good fit, and I don't think it'll work. But I just can't get Kyler Murray out of my head personally. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's where I lean like a Kirk Cousins and a rookie is kind of where my head's at if it's Frank Reich.
I would go with. I ultimately think that something probably ends up. There very well could have been a snag here. Like it could have been on the 1 yard line and things fell apart with Frank Reich. Like it was there. It was on the 1 yard line, and if something broke apart, something broke apart. I will say this as just one little anecdote. When the Jets were negotiating things with Aaron Rodgers, and then he went on the McAfee show, and he said on the McAfee show that he was something like, didn't he say it was like 80 or 90% retired? Like, didn't he make that line? He said something about the percentage that he was retired, that he was about done. That comment, irked is probably the wrong word, but that comment concerned ownership for the Jets. Basically, wait a minute, we're about to trade a bunch of draft capital and give you a ton of money, and you were about to be retired? Like, what are we going to do here? And that made them have some pause, and it's one of the reasons that slowed down the trade and why it took a while for that to eventually get done until eventually it got done, because there was some compensation that the Jets now were like, wait, I know we were kind of okay with it before. Now we're not okay with it considering this guy was about to retire. If it got back to him in some way, shape, or form that Frank was basically, already filing his papers and about to go, live on a golf course for the rest of his life, I wonder if that might have caused some hesitation from upper management with the Jets. But again, that's just speaking on past and then present and trying to connect some dots. I have nothing firm that I can say like per sources. That wasn't that at all, but just thinking about it. Ultimately, what I think is probably going to end up happening here is I think you're going to have a combination of 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 3 on this staff, and it's going to fill out. It's going to make the offense look pretty good. And the way that things have started to happen for the Jets this offseason, and the way that things have changed for the Jets this offseason, and why they've kind of been turning and veering and switching the plan and going all that, it's making me think like Kyler's going to happen. And it's just because it feels like they're going to want to splash. And if some of the main people that are pushing for moves are like, I want to splash, Kyler is the splash. That's not Kirk Cousins. That's not Jacoby Brissett. That's none of that thing. Kyler's the guy that would excite people, that's going to look fun, that's going to steal headlines, you can start to look at what he's done throughout his career at different points and be like, oh, maybe it will work here. He just needs a change of scenery. And once he gets here, I think it'll be a complete and total disaster. And I will say that, let me put it this way. If Kyler Murray does end up here, I think all of the notions of like, no, this is 100% this is 100% that, and these are the people that are making the decisions. If Kyler is here, I genuinely believe that's a sign that maybe there's more hands in decision-making than just Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, because everything that Aaron Glenn has said he wants from his players and everything he said he wants from his quarterback, it's not Kyler Murray. It's not. I mean, this is a guy who has durability issues. This is a guy who has some personality issues. This is a guy who has some love for the game issues. And by personality issues, I mean, like, how much work is he putting, like work ethic concerns. Like, there's literally a running joke in Arizona that Kyler Murray's season goes to you-know-what once the new Call of Duty comes out. Like, that's so not what Aaron Glenn has said from the first time we talked to him he wants in players. So if they get Kyler, that would kind of be the first time for me that I'm like, there might be more hands. There's more chefs in the kitchen than we originally thought was the case with this team. Right.
So before we go forward, I would say we got a tweet actually in our mailbag about a trade offer involving Kyler. So I'll throw it to you. You can say what you think. I know how I think, but Jets receive Kyler Murray. Cardinals receive Justin Fields, a 26th fifth, and a 27th third.
No. Nah, that's way too much.
Kyler's
Kyler's
contract. It's too much.
So much. Like, Kyler's making a ton of money. Like, I didn't know about that. Actually, in Madden, I know using Madden as like ratings with the Jets is kind of like a sore subject at the moment. But I'm in a Madden league with 3 of my best friends from home. Like, we do a Madden online franchise, and I'm the Seahawks. Yeah, I got annoyed at Sam Darnold, so I traded him. I actually traded him to the Jets for a first-round pick in Garrett Wilson. So I got rid of Sam Darnold, and then I want to draft a quarterback in my Madden league, so I traded for Kyler Murray. And I did not realize his contract until I acquired him, that it is, like, absurd. Like, there is a lot of money still on that. Now, again, the Cardinals would eat a ton of that compared to what the Jets would, all that fun stuff. But, I would not do that. I think because of the contract, you don't have to give up that 3. Like, you shouldn't have to give up that 3. Yeah. I also don't think the Cardinals are going to want Justin Fields, especially with Michael LaFleur.
Especially
I almost promise you they're not going to want Fields.
So Kyler's guaranteed $36.8 million this year. His base salary is $22.8 million, and there's $17 million in regular roster bonuses. So
the 22 goes to the Jets. Yeah. The Jets would have to absorb that.
Then he's under contract through 28, but in theory it would be a one and done if you don't like him. So it's like doable because the Jets have a lot of cap space. But the Cardinals, like the more the Jets are willing to eat, they could probably even get a draft pick out of the Cardinals. Like that's kind of where Kyler Murray's value is right now.
You want to talk some Senior Bowl?
Yeah, a little bit. Let's do it.
So there is some hype I've been seeing about Garrett down there. Not Wilson, the LSU quarterback, Nussmeier. I've been seeing that. There's been some hype about him. He's been looking good. Obviously, I don't know if that suddenly pushes him into draft him in the second round category. I will say that it seems like every time players leave LSU, they're magically better. Like they just automatically get better in the NFL than they were at LSU. So maybe that's the case with him. Some of the other guys here on this list, though, like Sam put this together for us, so I got to give her a shout out again. The like second tier quarterbacks the Jets would take on day 2, day 3 of the draft. If you're looping in Garrett with Ty Simpson, Ty's probably going to be a first round pick. Trinidad Chambliss, Carson Beck, Drew Allar. I think, just personally, I like the Garrett. I like Drew Allar a little bit. I'll be honest with you, and I hate Penn State. Sorry for Penn State faithful. I just hate Penn State. I kind of am starting to warm up to Drew Allar as the guy who's like, you're not going to have to spend a ton on him. I know it blew up in their face when they drafted Hackenberg as a developmental project, but like there's a lot of talent there. He's a good guy, big arm, mobile enough. Maybe you get him with a good coach and you work with him a bit. Like I think he's the dude that's worth the flyer more so than Garrett, just because I think that Drew's physical talent puts him at a next tier where if it does click. Like if it clicks for Drew, I think he's got a higher ceiling than some of these other dudes, with the exception of Ty Simpson.
Yeah, I mean, Allar's, it all depends on his medicals, I guess, because that injury messed him up, and I don't think he was playing particularly well before that. I still lean Nussmeier just because, if you look a year ago, he was viewed as like the potential number 1 pick. Dealt with a lot of injuries. He's supposedly healthy now. He looked pretty good at the Senior Bowl in the week of practices, apparently, and he's a coach's son. His dad is the OC of the Saints, so I kind of like the full package there. If you're getting him at like, whether it's 44 or you trade back and you get him with a third-round pick or whatever it is, I kind of like him as a project to build behind, whether it's a Kirk Cousins or a Kyler or whoever it is.
Again, I genuinely do believe this, Zach, that the Jets are trending towards the Carolina Panthers model of a quarterback. And this was from several years ago, but they drafted Jimmy Clausen in the second round, gave him a chance. It was like the first pick in the second round, something like that. They drafted Jimmy Clausen. Jimmy Clausen rolled through with that season. He was not very good. The Panthers were terrible. They finished with the number 1 overall selection. They drafted Cam Newton. Like I think that's where we're trending with the Jets, where they're going to draft somebody. They're going to have the veteran. The veteran's probably going to play a month. The veteran's going to get benched. They're going to turn to the rookie, and maybe the rookie sets the world on fire and looks really good, like Jackson Dart did or like Tyler Shuck did. Like maybe that's what happens for the Jets, and you're like, crap, we look like we've got our quarterback, and now we can use all of our other draft picks to continue to round out our roster. Or if we're still picking high, we can trade back to somebody that wants one of the quarterbacks in next year's class and get even more picks to round out our roster. Like maybe that happens. The worst case scenario, maybe that rookie quarterback is terrible, and then suddenly you're drafting 2 or 3, and you can draft more Arch or whoever comes out of that class. I think that's where we're heading towards. I think that's probably the model they go with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the right way to be. There was one GM, I can't remember who it was, who was hired recently, who said his plan is to draft a quarterback every year, as a force of habit, draft a quarterback, and if the guy turns out to be good, then you have a valuable piece or your potential starter. And it might have been the Dolphins. I can't remember, honestly. I'm blanking, but I think that I've always said that's what I would do if I was a GM. Like, those day 3 picks are such crapshoots. If you see a quarterback that you like the traits he has, or he was successful in college, or he has the physical attributes, like, take a flyer on him in the 5th, 6th, 7th every year. And if that guy doesn't work out, you cut him, you try again the next year, and then eventually you might stumble upon a guy who's like Brock Purdy or whatever, and then you look like a genius. And so I just think that's so much better than wasting a draft pick on a linebacker that you hope can contribute on special teams as a rookie. So that's why I've always said draft a quarterback every year, if not every other year, and I think you're in good shape.
Perfect. You want to talk about... Sorry, I was just looking in our group chat here. Sam got in my ear. I'm sorry, Sam. You're usually super clear. So I have my little earpiece here, and we can talk to like the production staff. For some reason, I was equally reading on Twitter and listening to you, and then I realized I can barely double multitask. I can certainly not triple task. That's a definite problem. So I'm sorry. So we're moving on here now to around the league. We're going to talk a little bit because Zack, the coaching staffs are filled out. We are finally it's all done. All of them. So we're going to run through those really quickly here. The Arizona Cardinals hired Mike LaFleur. The Falcons hired Kevin Stefanski. The Ravens hired Jesse Minter. The Bills hired Joe Brady. The Browns hired Todd Monken. The Raiders hired Clint Kubiak. This was an absurd amount of coaching vacancies. Right?
Yeah.
Like this was not normal. Like, this was so many people.
Yeah.
Continuing, Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley. Giants hired John Harbaugh. Steelers hired Mike McCarthy. And the Titans hired Robert Saleh. Also, the Bills brought in Jim Leonard as their defensive coordinator. Let's talk a little bit about Mike LaFleur, because I think that's the big one. So I remember when Robert Saleh got hired as the Jets original, and this is probably going to be maybe Jet fans just don't want to talk about this, but we're going to stick with the whole, like, hey, you're happy for Sam Darnold, maybe you're happy for Mike LaFleur. When Robert originally was hired, one of the criticisms that he had right off the bat was he hired a bunch of young coaches that hadn't necessarily done it before. That was on the positional staff, that was on the assistants, that was on the coordinating ranks, all of that stuff. And his mindset was like, yeah, I could get the dudes who have done it before, kind of like what the Jets did with Steve Wilkes, but like, I want the dudes who are going to grow and learn and develop, and suddenly we're going to create this pipeline of people that are hiring from our people. And I remember talking to him, I forget where, and he had said, like, the 2 guys that he kept saying were, these guys can be head coaches, these guys can be head coaches, these guys can be head coaches, were Mike LaFleur, and the other one was actually Mike Rutenberg, who was his linebackers coach, who I think is now, might follow him as defensive coordinator at Tennessee. He's with Ulbrich right now in Atlanta. But those were the 2 he said over and over, is like, these guys are going to be head coaches. Like, coordinators, yeah, absolutely. These 2 guys are absolutely head coaches. He loved Rutenberg. It was crazy. Seeing LaFleur get his opportunity after he was really badly scapegoated with the Jets. I mean, it was very clear with his offense. It worked literally at a top 5 statistical level with everybody other than Zach Wilson. And that was the argument that Saleh made to ownership when they were trying to say, we need to change, we need to change. It's like, look, dude, it works with everybody else. Like, maybe it's not the coach, maybe it's the coordinator. Like, maybe it's not the coach, maybe it's the player. Like, it works with everybody else. Let's stick with him, let's stick with him. Ultimately, it was moved out of Saleh's hands, so much so that when Mike was actually let go, he called me, and he goes, dude, whatever you do, don't kill Robert on this. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, like, just don't kill Robert for firing me. It wasn't Robert's decision. Don't kill Robert for this. Please don't kill Robert for this. I was like, I wasn't planning on doing that anyway, but sure, I won't kill him. When it was falling apart and it became clear that, like, Mike was not going to be back, Sean McVay was the one that called Robert and said, I will take him. Like, I will take Mike. Tell him, don't worry, I'm taking Mike with me. I'm taking Mike. 3 years later, he's the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm very excited to see. I think that, and he's probably going to do it if the Gus Bradley things happens, Mike needs a proven defensive coordinator. Like, he's going to need, almost like when Sean McVay got hired and he had Wade Phillips as his defensive coordinator, that's what Mike's going to need. He's going to need that with him. But it's going to be fun watching him call plays again. It's going to be fun watching him as a head coach. I mean, it's great for the family. His wife, Lauren, is incredible. Obviously, his brother, Matt, being in the NFC as well. Like, it's going to be really cool. I'm really happy for him, and it's going to be fun to see what he does there in Arizona.
Yeah, and an interesting part about how it ended, too, is if you remember, like, one of the reasons why Woody felt the need to force him out was not only because I think fans had started to turn on LaFleur, but also there was, like, exit interviews where some of the players, for whatever reason, were not thrilled with him because I think part of it was I think he was very, very smart, but I think he kind of kept to himself, and he was very blunt and very honest with players, and some guys don't like that. And so they go into the exit interviews, they say what they think about him, and then Nathaniel Hackett becomes their OC for a year and a half. And I think guys started talking privately about how I regret doing that to Mike LaFleur. I think guys literally told Robert Saleh that. So a combo of players maybe not realizing what they had in the moment and how bad it can get when you go from a creative play caller to Nathaniel Hackett, how that could feel. And so it's just interesting that I think once he went to the Rams, everybody kind of knew in the back of their head there was a chance he'd become a head coach, because the joke is if you get a cup of coffee with Sean McVay, you're probably going to get hired as a head coach somewhere. But I will say what was the surprise is he seemed like out of the 3 assistant coaches getting interviews, he seemed like the least likely going into the offseason between him, Sheil Hayes, and Chris Shula. Like everybody was talking about Shula as like a lock. Sheil Hayes was getting a lot of hype for the Browns job, and as it turned out, LaFleur is the one that gets the job. And I am curious to see how it goes. You know, he's in a tough spot in Arizona. They have famously one of the worst ownership groups. They always rank at the bottom of the league in terms of being cheap and facilities being poor, and they've fired coaches pretty frequently the last decade. So it's a tough spot, but less pressure than if he was coaching in New York or something like that. So I'm very curious to see how it goes. And the Jets are going to be in Arizona next year, just like they're going to be in Nashville.
Mike, so here's the thing, for Mike to leave, and I remember talking to him about this, all throughout the last couple of years. Dude, I know you're with Sean right now. Would you want to leave to go to be an offensive coordinator where you're going to call plays? Get the promotion of offensive coordinator, assistant head coach, and call your plays. Even if it was at the Giants and Jackson Dart, or just leave where you are to come be an offensive coordinator, call plays. It might help you a bit. And dude, he was so happy in LA that he constantly said over and over and over again, I am not leaving unless it's a head coaching job. I love working for Sean. He loved coaching Matt Stafford. And he was also given opportunities that some people just didn't know about. You wonder why the Cardinals picked him over some other people. When the Cardinals and Rams played each other and the Rams dropped 48 points on them, Mike LaFleur, was the offensive coordinator. He called the plays in that game because that was when Sean was sick. So there was definitely moments. He got a game ball after the game too. There were moments where Mike was given opportunities and it shined, and it felt like once he got in the room and started getting some of these interviews and people started talking to him and seeing how his brain works with the game and how he can relate to players, he was going to get his opportunity. It was going to happen to him. It was just a matter of which team was going to take the chance. And I joke about this all the time, Zach. I was tweeting about it too yesterday, or once Mike got his job. He's the only offensive coordinator since 2014 that I can remember designing plays that the Jets ran that other teams then copied. Teams saw what the Jets were doing and were like, hey, I want to do that too. I have not seen that in my, 12 years covering this team, 13 years covering this team. It was the old play with Braxton Berrios back to Crowder or whatever the hell it was. There was so many things that he did that just were fun, and it's going to be fun to give him or see what he does here. So I'm excited for him. I was talking to him this morning and yesterday about it, and I know his family's so thrilled. He's got 2 great kids, and it's going to be. Again, people, we talked about this since the last point on this one, is that people say, who are you a fan of? You can't, there's no way you can, you grew up a fan of this. How can you lose your fandom? How can you lose your fandom? As you do this professionally, you genuinely do lose that. You lose the, I grew up a fan of this team. That's where my allegiance lies. You truly lose it. What you don't lose is the people you get a chance to meet, players, coaches, assistant managers, that you learn, and they're good people, and you just hope they find success elsewhere. Mike is one of those dudes. Got a raw deal here with the Jets, but he was a really good person, and I'm very excited to see what he ends up doing. I think it'll be really fun. You want to play a quick game, Zach?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, so we have some awards, and this is, again, shout out Sam Candle. She does a great job with this. Awards given to the new coaches that are hired. Okay, so we've got fun little joking awards. This is probably and wasn't there a music award show that was just last night? Didn't that
the
just happen?
Grammys? A music award show? Do you not know what the Grammys are?
So I always get the Grammys and the Oscars mixed up, and I didn't want to make myself seem like an idiot. I always get Grammys and Oscars. I say the same thing over and over again, and I always get confused on which is which. And I've told myself in my head 24 times this is this, that is that. But now it's don't say this, don't say this, don't say this. Then now I want to say that. So I said, music award shows, the Grammys. So in honor of the Grammys, here are our awards for the coaches, and we'll each go give our names. So, or who we think is going to get this one. So the most likely to succeed award goes to who from this coaching cycle?
Most likely to succeed. I'll say Jesse Minter, most likely to succeed, because I think he's walking into the best, already established culture. He just needs to coach the defense up and get Lamar in position. So I'd say most likely to succeed. I'd say that, yeah.
I'm going to get ripped for Jet fans for saying my answer, but I'm going to go John Harbaugh with the Giants. And the reasoning for that is like, I don't know if the Giants are going to be a team that wins 13 games every year. I don't know if the Giants are going to win Super Bowls with Harbaugh, but I feel very confident that John Harbaugh is going to turn them into a good team. Like they are going to be one of those teams that year over year over year over year is winning between 9, 10, and 11 games every single season. And whether they go on a run that reaches the Super Bowl, we'll see. But I think that they are going to be the Giants with John Harbaugh will be some degree of good for the next 5 or 6 years. I genuinely do believe that. Maybe not this first year while he's still building out his staff and his team and getting his guys in place, but I think that'll be the case. All right, how about the personality who fits his team the best? I think we might both have the same answer for this one.
Well, I think I don't know if this is your answer or not. I'm going with this because he's from where he's going to be coaching, Mike McCarthy. They keep talking about how Like I don't believe that was the best hire. I was kind of confused by it personally, but he's a yinzer, as they say. So in terms of that, it makes the most sense.
I agree. I had the exact same answer. I have nothing to add. He just looks like Pittsburgh. Like again, I don't know if this is going to work at all. I think they literally just replaced Mike Tomlin with like another Mike Tomlin and Mike McCarthy, which is a bigger version of Mike Tomlin. But like I think that's just what he's just they're going to win 9 or 10 games every single season, and then he's going to make some really dumb decision in the playoffs that get them eliminated in the first or second round. All right, how about I like this one from Sam. Most likely to give homework on a holiday. I had my answer. I wrote this one down faster than any other one.
Todd Monken just looks like
a guy. Me too. I said the same thing. Yeah, I said Monken. He looks like that dude.
He looked like his outfit. He was like a substitute teacher, just like threw on a polo to go to school that day.
Yep, 100% agree. Class clown, which is the worst hire of the cycle. So we did best hire of the cycle, worst hire of the cycle.
So I actually did rankings because I thought we were originally going to do that, and I had Todd Monken at number 10 out of the 10. I would say
you had them as the worst.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I Jeff Hafley right before that.
We're way different.
I'll just tell you my rankings while we're here because I'll just fire them off real quick. So I had 1 Harbaugh, like you said, he raises the ceiling of a really bad franchise, changed the culture. 2 I had Minter, 3 Stefanski, 4 Kubiak, 5 McCarthy, 6 Joe Brady, 7 Saleh, 8 LaFleur. I actually thought about putting LaFleur ahead of Saleh, and now that I say it, I think I might even think that. 9 Hafley and 10 Monken.
I like that. So my worst one that I had is I had Joe Brady. I think it's such a weak hire.
Question that one.
I took this situation removed because if you want to go situation, it's the Browns. Like the Browns are the worst team to walk into. I looked at the coach and like I just don't think Brady inspires any hope. And like that whole coaching search seemed like they were flying by the seat of their pants. I know it was like it's funny actually because if Harbaugh had waited a week, I wonder if John Harbaugh is the coach of the Bills. Like I genuinely do wonder that. But I just think to fall backwards into Joe Brady. It's funny like right when they fired Sean McDermott. One of the guys who helps me most in the NFL, like probably the single best source that I have, who the guy is batting like 1,000, dating back to when he was actually the first person that told me about Brian Dable loving Jackson Dart. Like he was the first person that told me that, and I was like, that's not out there yet. And since then, he's like literally batting 1,000. He hit me up right after the Bills fired Sean. And he goes, hey, just so you know, you make sure you keep an eye on Joe Brady there. He's probably going to get the job. And I'm like, what? They're going to promote their offensive coordinator? Like, no freaking way, dude. And he's like, no, that's been the plan. He goes, I know a lot of people over there, and the plan apparently has always been when they move on from Sean, be it by firing him or him leaving or whatever, they're going to go to Joe Brady. And I know they went through the Dable route and the other exhaustive search, but Joe was always the one. And I just was like, that seems so lame. Like, I never watched the Bills' offense and thought they were elite. I thought that Josh Allen just made spectacular things happen. That's what I think every time I watch the Bills is like, it's the old. I make the analogy all the time, but it's like the scene from The Incredibles with the kid on the bike just being like, "What are you waiting for? Something incredible, I guess." Like that's basically the Bills' offense. They're just waiting for Josh Allen to save them, and Joe Brady's the leader of that one. All right, how about this one? Most likely to win in Jeopardy.
So I guess that's like smartest or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd say Kevin Stefanski. I saw an interview he did with Kevin Clark where he had really good knowledge about, I forget what band it was, but I think he had really good music knowledge. And so you need to have more knowledge beyond football. So I'll say Kevin Stefanski, but the other one I thought of there was Kubiak, I would say.
That was me. That's mine. Mine's Kubiak. Yeah. I just feel like he seems smart. I don't know. He also has a smart name. His dad's a coach. Like I don't know. Kubiak seems like you're smart. I don't know. That's kind of like how I judge players based off their uniform attire, which I got to get with Connor Rogers. Maybe we'll unveil that at the NFL Combine. We'll do a hit on that because we're doing the show down there. Maybe we'll bring Connor on there to compare our top 10 player rankings. But yeah, I had Kubiak. All right, here's the last one. Coach, let me know if you want me to go first. Coach, you would have wanted for the Jets in this cycle.
Oh man. I guess if we're being who they realistically could have got, or like that's
no, who you, Zack Rosenblatt, who you would want the Jets to have, you.
I guess Stefanski. Yeah, I'd say Stefanski because I actually think he's a pretty good coach, and it's time for them to hire a good offensive coach. I would say.
Mine, I thought really long and hard about this one. I was kind of comparing about philosophy, mentality. Who would probably bring the boast, who would be able to handle all the criticism. And after kind of looking at not only all of the coaches who were hired, but also the assistants who weren't to try to figure out who would have been best for the Jets, I settled on Mike LaFleur. I thought he would be the best coach for the Jets, and that the person that I would have liked to have seen them hire this offseason. I love him. He's great.
For your own personal reasons, yes.
I just love you know what's funny is I was like, I have a great relationship with the guy. He's an awesome dude. I can honestly tell you that he, during his 2 years there and 3 years now since, he's never told me anything on the Jets, like ever. Like I've never gotten any Jets scoop. Like he's good with players. Like he'll help me like explain players and what they're good at, what they're not good at, and like some analysis and things. He's great with that stuff because he's a brilliant mind. But he's not like, that's why people are like, oh, he must be a source. He must be a source. Like no, he's just a good dude. Like 90% of our conversations stem around wine. Like that's literally what it all is. But he's a great guy, and I am very happy to see what he does. All right, Zach, you want to do a couple mailbag questions before we leave? Because we did take that. We sent a tweet out. I love this because every offseason, I think every episode we start here, and I'm like, man, are we really going to hit an hour on this? Like, are we going to hit an hour on this? Here we are at an hour. So we are rolling through on the offseason. I think our offseasons have actually been more robust than our game recaps. I think probably because the game we don't want to talk about because they're always so bad that we get to the offseason, we're like, yeah, hell yeah, let's talk about this fun stuff, right?
Yep.
Or drama.
All right, let's do it.
This one is from Christian Turner. So this is Mini Jets Mega Mailbag, and we're going to take some questions here, probably 3 or 4 of them, and then save them. We'll probably dump them all throughout the next few weeks here leading into the Combine. All right, from Christian Turner, let's try to fix the Jets in 3 off-season moves. You can be super unrealistic if you want, like, for example, trade for Mahomes and stuff like that. So in a fake world, hell, we were just talking about me playing Madden. Let's Madden fix the Jets. How would you do it with 3 moves?
So I did it. I kept it semi-realistic and, like, things they could do this off-season in theory is how I did it. Yeah. I said, number 1, trade up for Fernando Mendoza. I said, number 2, sign Trey Hendrickson, elite pass rusher. And then your pass rush is pretty much solved up front. You have 3 good defensive ends, helps on the back end. And then I said, sign Tyler Linderbaum. You got a Pro Bowl, all-pro center in the middle of your offensive line that all of a sudden goes from like a good to a great unit. And you have the quarterback, you have Garrett Wilson, and you have all this money to get other weapons. Yep. So that was my path to them fixing what they have right now, I guess.
Yep. Mine would be trade your 2027 draft picks for Joe Burrow, so you get your quarterback taken care of. Use your 2026 second pick on one of the pass rushers, whoever you want, whether it's Reese or Rubin. And then use your second one on a receiver. All of a sudden, your offense is set. And then just figure out defense later. Just score all the points. Basically, just recreate the Bengals because that'll be fun for us. Like have Garrett and Carnell Tate and Joe Burrow and the running game and the offensive line. And then just don't even worry about defense like Cincinnati. We'll worry about that later. Let's just get the Jets to playing fun football. And points is fun. All right, let's move on to Joel Yeller here. Who has his name, by the way, and Sam pointed this out to me. I think it's the best. His name on X is Seymour Butts. So I think that's awesome. How much improvement do you think the team needs for Aaron Glenn to retain his job next year? Would 6-11 do it? Very good question. I'm curious your answer on this.
Yeah, I don't think it is a specific number as much as it's a vibe, I would say. Like if the vibe of this team is that they're still a mess, like the way they ended this last season, he is absolutely not going to be back. If they win 3 games, sure, he's not going to be back. If they win 4 games, I would guess he's probably not also. So I'd say 5+ is probably where you can start having the conversation of bringing them back, especially considering how bad they were last year. But they just need to be competitive. It needs to be closer, and you need to feel like you're headed towards the playoffs at the end of the season, as opposed to what happened this season, where it was like the season was over after Halloween. You gave up on it. Like I don't know if you make it to the end of the season if it goes as poorly as it did last year, frankly. So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
I do not think any variation of 5 wins does it. I don't know how you go from 3 wins to 5 wins and keep your job. I just don't. I
That's
don't
fair.
see that
That's
happening.
fair.
Like I think 6, depending on how it looks, I could maybe see. But I think the number to like even then, I don't know with the way how ugly it is right now within the Jets world. I don't see any fan hanging their hat on a 6-win campaign because also at 6 wins, you're now not even in contention for probably a top 4 pick, probably not even top 5 pick at 6 wins. So now you're not even going to have the quarterback, and I just think it's bad. I think 6 is bad. The number that you can feel confident about him coming back is 7. If they can get to 7 wins, which I do not think is going to happen, and I also don't think Aaron Glenn's going to be back next year. If they can get to 7, though, I think that's the number where you can feel pretty confident. Maybe some variation of 6, but 7 is the number they got to hit to feel confident about him coming back. My curious is I actually don't hate the job that Darren Muji's been doing. I'm wondering if Woody can evaluate them separately and keep Darren and then just hire a new head coach, but we'll see. Last question is this is from Brady Cook Stan. Do you see the Jets making a move for Mendoza at number 1? I think I'll go first. Just my answer is very quick. I think they'll try, but I don't think there's any chance of him getting him.
Yeah, you have to try because if you think highly of Mendoza, you have to try, offer whatever you have to offer. But I just don't see any way. Like I don't see Clint Kubiak taking that job unless he knows for sure they're drafting Fernando Mendoza. So yeah, I don't see it happening. I do think they make the call. They probably already have, and they probably will continue to do so. Offer the kitchen sink and everything that you can and everything in your mother, but you're not going to end up with Fernando Mendoza unless like something shocking happens. I would say.
Fun episode. Do you agree?
Yeah.
I had fun.
Good one.
Oh, one real quick one. Do you think the Knicks trade for Giannis? I think no. I really want them to, but I don't think they do.
I don't think he's getting traded before the deadline. I think it'll be in the summer.
Okay, I'm fine with the Knicks doing it then. I hate Karl Anthony Towns, and I also am starting to hate Mikal Bridges. That's going to make Jet and Knicks fans mad at me, but like I just don't like them. I don't like Cat. I'm getting to the point where I'm like I hope Randall comes back, like Julius Randle. I'm sorry, like I'm getting to that point. Zach, how was the trip to Nashville? By the way, I want to. I think we've slowly but surely deteriorated from where Jet fans were happy for the successes of past Jets, where we went from Sam and then to Mike to now where I'm about to say, hey, your story on Robert Saleh you wrote was awesome and Jet fans should go read it. I don't know if fans can stomach it at the moment, but I thought it was a great story, dude. Like you did a really good job. So you want to just keep talk about that. Like you got a chance to go down to Nashville and talk to where the Music City Miracle and where you got married and all that stuff. And then we almost got in a bar fight.
Great city.
But aside from that, the story. Talk about the story. And then the bar fight.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I would say to your comment about Jets fans, I would say a lot of the comments on The Athletic are why are there so many stories about Robert Saleh in the Jets section? And it's because we don't have a Titans writer, and I offered to go to Nashville. So it's a combo of me wanting to write about this and also getting a free trip to Nashville. I will say, not the most exciting time to be out there. They had a crazy ice storm where like the trees are so frozen that it looks like they have Christmas lights. Like it's the craziest thing. I slipped and fell on my ass at one point, and that hurt quite a bit. My foot is still hurting. So it was very icy out there, very cold. But yeah, I went to Robert's presser. It was interesting. Like I got him one-on-one for a few minutes, which was cool. And I joked with him like the last time you did this, you were staring at a screen because it was during COVID. So his intro presser for the Jets was via Zoom, which is crazy to think about. Like it's just such a different vibe. Even you walk into that room, you can just kind of tell you're in a different vibe than New York, which probably suits him well. Where like there was a decent amount of cameras and reporters in there, but not like a lot. Like not like one at a Jets intro presser where they need that auditorium. Wasn't the biggest room. A lot of the room was filled with like players standing in the back, and they're all large humans. And even Robert was like, yeah, that was nothing because that's like a regular day in New York. So, but I wanted to talk to him about, he hasn't really talked much reflecting on his time in New York. So I wanted to get whatever I could out of him. He's not someone who's going to trash anybody on the way out, I would say. So he was very respectful, but, talked a lot about what he went through in the immediate aftermath of getting fired and, getting out of that emotionally and how much going to work for Matt LaFleur helped him and, going back to work for the 49ers and kind of, formulating a plan in his head and things like that. I think he knows there are a lot of questions he has to answer as a coach, the things he did poorly the last time. And hiring Brian Daboll as his OC, you can think what you want about two New York coaches reuniting each other, two failed ones. But Daboll's an experienced OC, which he didn't have the last time. So, that's notable. And, Robert, I think he knows he didn't handle criticism very well and negativity. He cared too much about what people were saying. And he's saying all the right things now, but we'll see once things happen. Like, it's not going to be as loud as when he was in New York. But, Brian Callahan was getting roasted week after week last year, and he eventually got fired. And they have an owner who I think listens to fans too much also. So, it's going to be important for him to keep the main thing. And, they're probably not going to win a lot of games this next year like the Jets, even if you like Cam Ward. So, you say, how's he going to handle it if people are criticizing how they look in year one? Like, that's a big question for him. And he's going to be calling plays. I think the quote that he had in his press conference that kind of went viral among Jets fans was where he said he felt like the red flag and timeout guy, which I don't think fans took very well because, you were the head coach at the end of the day, buddy. So I don't know if you want to say that. I think he was half joking. But one thing Jets fans criticized him for constantly was being stoic and stone-faced on the sideline, like not reacting to anything. Yeah. When that's not what they were promised. And so I think his idea was to get back to who he is, which is running up and down and, flexing all his muscles and screaming. And I think you're going to see more of that. And we'll see if it works. But he's excited, and I'm excited to see the Jets play him in Nashville this season because he's gonna have a little something extra, I imagine, for Aaron Glenn, who took a lot of not so subtle shots at him and his regime during training camp. So,
that'll be a fun. I got a chance to see Robert when the Jets played when the Eagles and 49ers played in the playoff game. The 49ers are weird. They fly in early, like a day early, whenever they play on the East Coast. So he had Saturday free. So I met up with him for dinner that night, and we was just talking about the coach, like, was he ready for the coaching cycle and all that stuff. And one of the things we were talking about was remembering New York and his time in New York. And I said to him, I was like, dude, I think what really sunk you a bit here was just like the obsession over controlling the narrative. And you got to realize, like, that in a big market, that's not going to happen. Like, win games and you're fine. Lose games, you can't worry about what's being said when you're lost. You just got to focus on winning. And I think he tried to control the message and talk to enough people where he could control the message. And then it just got out of hand. And then controlling it, things were said that weren't totally true. And then half-truths got out. And when you start giving half-truth, people are going to find out. And it just became a disaster where I think the smaller market will absolutely help him. I think having the proven offensive coordinator and Brian Daboll is going to help him. Ultimately, though, Zach, and this is the truth, is that he's going to sink or he's going to swim in Tennessee based off whether or not Cam Ward is good. If Cam Ward is good, I think there's a good chance Robert Saleh is going to be very good there, and Brian Daboll might be a head coach in his own right in 2 years. If Cam Ward is not good, then guess what? Robert's probably going to be back as someone's defensive coordinator in a couple of years. That's really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of stuff he just generally handled poorly over time, but he was also a first-time head coach, so we're going to find out if the second time around he is going to handle it better. And it's just fun that the Jets are going to be playing the Cardinals and the Titans this year, going against both of those coaches. It's perfect.
I actually have to shout out Angelo's, though, because they hosted us for that dinner, and it was freaking awesome. Have you ever been there? Angelo's Cheesesteaks in South Philly?
I haven't yet, no.
It's good, dude. Pizza was great, too. They get pizza, a couple cheesesteaks, roast pork sandwich. Like, they're really good. Cheesesteak, I'm from South Jersey. The cheesesteak actually reminded me of Lilo's in Hainsport. Like they do the seeded roll with the garlic butter. They then toast it so it kind of gets crispy but also juicy, and then the Cooper Sharp with the steak. It's really, like, Lilo's is awesome. Like, honestly, Angelo's and Lilo's I couldn't separate them, to tell you the truth. I thought they were both delicious, so highly recommend both those spots. Lilo's is actually right around the corner from me. I live like 10 minutes from there. That's all I got, Zach. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't. Excited for the game on Sunday. And we have clearly there's not going to be a week that goes by where we don't have something to talk about. I would imagine at this time next week they'll have their offensive coordinator too. So we'll have something to talk about. So let's see what happens.
Absolutely. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Jets Class. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can catch us across all of SNY's digital platforms. Rewatch this episode on X, rewatch it on SNY.TV, or the best place to be, like we say all the time, is on YouTube. And when you go and find us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to SNY's YouTube channel, because the Knicks, whether they get Giannis or don't get Giannis, Ian Begley is going to be breaking it all down on the putback. We put clips up from Honda Sports Night on there, Jets pre- and post-game live. The Mets are going to be starting and getting hot soon, along with the Yankees. So watch all that content on SNY's YouTube channel. Truly, it's the best place to be for all digital content. If you want more of Zack Rosenblatt, you can find him and Tim McMaster on Flight Plan. I'm going to get this right one of these times on first take. You can find them on Flight Plan, part of the Badlands Network. Joe Caporoso and Connor Rogers do a great job with that. So you guys can listen to them as well. Got to give a huge shout out to our production team. That's Corey Palmer, Sam Candle, who was on the ones and the twos for this episode, and Jeff Goldman, who I think might actually be sending me to HR because I pronounced Drew's name wrong for Penn State. So thank you guys so much for joining this episode, and we will see you guys next week where we talk about maybe the Jets having a new offensive coordinator.